One of the aims of the pro-male collective is to deal with this controlled opposition. This is what these two are. They're controlled opposition. They're bringing up a men's issue and they erase it by trying to make it a women's issue. Okay. Now, in this case, they're talking about why did large-breasted protagonists disappear from media? The answer is obvious. The feminists are in control of the media and they want to deny pleasure for men. And they do say it eventually. But first, they make it about a bunch of other garbage to try and obscure what's going on. Now, this guy is named Malcolm. He argues the trend towards flat-chested female leads in TV shows reveals an unhealthy demonization of female sexuality by progressives, see? So he makes it about women, a men's issue about women, and he calls feminists progressives. I suspect these two are feminist, right? So let's get into this.
They say anything that arouses males is bad. Female dimorphism arouses males. Let's take that away from them.
Oh.
Right?
This is what he says up here. And so this is it. This is it in a nutshell. So anything they say after that is just gibberish to obscure the issue.
Let's take away these big-breasted characters. Let's take away these voluptuous characters. But we still want lots of strong female leads. Now, what happens if you take those things away? What do those leads
You don't need strong female leads, by the way. You know, a female character who's cowardly and feeble is still beloved. Just the nature of men and women, right? So the whole point of having a strong female is really just to deny what women are, right? Women don't fantasize about being a strong lead. They don't fantasize about the hero character because it's not necessary for them to get by. So it's really about taking away from men, right? The male hero succeeds in life, right? He's a man who makes success. So by putting women in there, it's really stealing that from men.
They look like one of two things. They either look like men or they look like underage women.
No. They look like ugly women. Women who aren't appealing to men. That's what it is. So he's wrong about that.
Because those are the two groups in our society that have no breath.
Okay? No. There's all kinds of grown women who have small breasts and they're unappealing to men. That's all that's going on here.
Okay? Those are the two groups that have this overall masculine archetype. So
having small breast isn't a masculine trait.
Moving away from this more gender dimorphic archetype, they,
sexy women, that's what they're moving away from.
I think in a way are promoting underage sexual attraction or the elevation of underage character.
Wow, he's pedo smearing his own group. All hate mongers pedo smear the groups that they hate
into sexual positions, which I regularly see, especially in Western animated shows, and the removal and the erasure of women, or at least women that most young girls can identify with, body type wise, from positions of power.
Nonsense. It's not positions of power. They show Laura Croft. Laura Croft is in a position of power. She's taking on the male heroic role where you have to struggle and suffer. Women aren't into that, right?
Would you like to know more?
Hello, Simone. This is a request that came from one of...
Okay, so that was his introduction, and I'll say that later. And here they're going to spew a bunch of nonsense, right?
Our viewers, who is actually your dad?
VIP.
VIP, right? And I'm glad that he actually takes time to watch these. That's very sweet of him.
Yeah, he's one of those patriarchs that loves his daughter, right? Those evil patriarchs.
My mom used to.
Hi, Dad. Love you.
So he wrote, so here's an inquiry to explore with...
You two feminist? Because if you're a feminist, you don't love your father.
base camp. All the leading ladies in contemporary fiction video storytelling have small breasts. What is this about? It seems like larger breasts have been assigned to less intelligent, bimbo-type female characters. This is very deliberate and has been an editorial casting choice for decades.
Yeah, exactly. It's always been a stereotype. So it has nothing to do with what's going on now.
You have to go back to Raquel Welch or Sophia Loren to bring back that statuesque, big-breasted woman of classic cinema. This is really, really fascinating for me because it's definitely something I've seen and know that I consume primarily animated content.
It's only fascinating to you if you don't like men. If you're a man with self-respect, you don't find this fascinating. You find it puke-inducing.
Right?
Yeah,
So,
and I mean animated, like anime, specifically Japanese anime, since I don't know, like 2015, has really seen a spike in what is called fan service, which is really
Yeah. So that just means, that just shows you how much men are deselected. Like women aren't putting out at all, and so men go elsewhere. That explains the spike in fan service.
so
like,
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about Western animated content as
oh,
well.
oh,
And in
oh.
Western animated content, there's been a growth in women in leading roles.
Oh, by the way, guys, this isn't just about taking away large breast, because there's all kinds of beautiful female characters that don't have large breasts, but they have other, traits like long legs, shapely bodies in other ways, right? So when these these feminists are uglifying the women, period. They're taking away everything that guys like.
But also in small breasts, of intelligence. Hold on, actually, before we go further, I gotta take a gripe that I have with Western animation.
Okay.
So there's a lot of people out there who complain that Western animation is like getting too gay, right? And it does have a lot of gay stuff going on in it. I'll agree with that. And yes, that could be seen as a form of indoctrination. That is not my complaint.
It's not indoctrination. It's just that the feminists have gotten control of media, and the stuff they consume stays the same. The stuff that the men consume, they ruin, right?
My complaint is I want to take the lesbian community aside for a second and be like, okay, I see you guys are getting a lot of representation now in Western animated things, but in most of these arcs, one character starts trying to kill the other character, and then they fall in love.
That's right. It's fan art. It's fan service, right? For lesbians, women are into rape culture, right? They're also into violent sex. So they want their partners to be enemies, to be violent, and then have makeup sex. That's what's going on here.
You can see this in She-Ra, the most recent She-Ra with the Catra She-Ra love arc. They're definitely trying to kill each other at one point. You can see this in The Owl House, by the way.
By the way, She-Ra is a perfect example that the lesbians aren't into She-Ra, the new one. They're not into boys with long hair. So this is just, they ruined She-Ra characters so guys wouldn't enjoy it. You understand that? But they themselves, when they get into their own stuff, they like exactly what guys like. Big-breasted, long-legged women in skimpy outfits. Matter of fact, one of my nieces, who's a lesbian, her partner even said that. She said she likes the old She-Ra, the long-legged miniskirt wearing She-Ra with the long hair. She admitted it.
Really enjoyed that show. You see this, or metaphors for unconsensual sex are depicted as
Exactly. He's talking about Steven Universe. And that's what it is. There's a lot of rape going on there, but it's hidden under, the way they work it, the two characters bond, and usually one bonds with the other when the other didn't want to. It's a metaphor for rape. He's right. Because this is what women are turned on by. Not just lesbians, but women, period. They're into the rape fantasies.
in Steven Universe.
And they put it in kids' cartoons.
what's going on here? Is this normal? Are you guys like trying to kill each other out there? This was not a trope in heterosexual animated media, but it appears to be just like a very big trope in lesbian animated media.
Yeah, thank you for admitting that. It's not a trope with heterosexual men. That's true. Lesbian women really love it. They're really into their rape fantasies, right? And they're showing it in their cartoons.
But okay, back to the main question, which is why are they painting small breasts as a sign of competence and strength?
They aren't. Look, later on, he's going to actually say what it really is about. So this is just gibberish to obscure the issue.
What are your thoughts? I want to hear yours first. I've got my own thoughts on this.
Yeah, so part of me thinks it's like a sort of post-gender world that we're living in mainstream media. So like the more androgynous characters look, the better. And maybe it's also that like people just find it easier to.
He's wrong. Is the lesbians who put out all this shit, or the women in general, the feminists, they are not into androgynous characters themselves. They are into very, very masculine and feminine women for their own fantasies.
To relate, especially kids and child audiences find it easier to relate to someone who just looks like a child, and children just look.
That's bullshit. Kids watch all kinds of, they accept everything. What was the Powerpuff Girls, right? They have the mayor and his secretary's a bombshell with incredible body. Kids accept everything.
Look more androgynous and therefore have like flat chests or at least smaller chests. So I feel like that must be what's going on, that androgyny is seen as more just.
This is bullshit, by the way, guys, because in anime that she mentioned, there are all kinds of flat-chested girls that are still gorgeous, right? Because they get representation. And they're there because there are all kinds of guys who they may not be into giant breasts, but they love the other parts of the woman. That's what's going on. So she's just wrong about this.
Just of a cultural norm, and we're kind of just in a so confused about gender society that making someone look super gender dimorphic is too stressful to handle.
Okay, let's see if I can find one. There's the anime. The devil is a part-timer. There's the main female, Amelia. She does very flat-chested, but she's gorgeous, and guys will go for that. This is the other character. I forget her name, but she's big-breasted. See, she's got the big breast. So obviously guys go for all body types. This is well-liked anime. Right. So now you understand that the erasure of big breast itself has nothing to do with, well, I should say, they do want to try and take away from men, right? Exactly. They want to erase that particular archetype, but they're also going to erase the Amelia archetype, right? Or that style of character. It's not just making them flat-breasted. It's taking away everything that's beautiful about them.
Too full of baggage. So let's just make people look neutral. And I find myself often just really not being sure what gender.
Exactly. It's the neutrality. It's the erasure of all feminine traits that appeal to men.
People are anymore, in especially animated media. So especially Western animated media.
So I don't think that's what's happening.
Really? So what's your theory?
So I think it's a confluence of things which has led to something that's actually really sexist. So I'm going to try my hardest not to be strawman. So
he is right about it being sexist, but it's sexist towards men. Women suffer almost zero sexism. Matter of fact, they do. I shouldn't say almost. Sexism is strictly for men. This idea of sexism towards women has always been horseshit. Right? So he's right. It's sexism.
If I was going to strawman, what I would say is the left actually has a pathological hatred of women. And so they refuse to associate gender dimorphic traits with any positive characteristic, whether it's.
See, he's talking about the left. So it's feminist. So he's saying feminists have a pathological hatred towards women. Say this is horseshit. These left wingers are no different from right wingers. This hurts women too. It's begging.
Intelligence or anything else. I mean, look at this. If you look at, the recent explosion of transitions, it's been an explosion of transitions which never happened before. We're talking about within trans people of women to men. It used to be predominantly male to female. Now it's predominantly female to male and predominantly young. Well, I guess you call them men. So
No, I wouldn't call them men, because if they're transitioning from something. So they're transitioning from women to men. Otherwise, you can't say they're transitioning. But the point is, these women who are becoming men are finding out the hard way. They jump on trends. They say, oh, this is a cool trend. Their privilege is invisible to them. This is the thing that women project on the men. They say, we have a privilege and we don't even see it. They're the ones, because all these women that transition into men suffer for it each and every time, 100%. They believed in their own hype that men are advantaged. They become men and then they suffer. I say that looks good on them.
Young men who are transitioning, so females transitioning to males. What could be seen as a cause of this? If we as a culture are acting as if femininity and being womanly is this wholly negative thing and this wholly disgusting thing, of course these young
Really? I thought you believed in the trans. Are you anti-trans? They do it because they're supposedly suffering from dysphoria, right? It's not that they hate being female, or I shouldn't say they do hate being female because of dysphoria. They feel like they're men, right? But they don't actually hate their own sex as a whole.
Girls hate themselves. Of course they feel this way, which is something that we didn't have in the past. You had women who were excelling at being women and men who were excelling at being men, and we were able to.
These trans men often still want girlfriends, though, don't they? So they don't hate their own sex. They just, according to them, they don't feel right as a woman. That's it.
Glorify both archetypes, where now we need to, glorify men excelling at being men and women excelling at being men.
How would you excel as a man? As being a sex, that is. A man can succeed at things. You could exceed at some goal, but you can't succeed at being a sex. That's just something you are.
Which, of course, leads to these women feeling like it's not actually women being celebrated. But I'm not actually going to.
I wouldn't celebrate women ever, because they never achieved anything.
To take that route, I am going to say that is a straw man in this case, and I think something else is happening.
To be more precise, they've never achieved anything as a sex, right? You can find individual women that maybe have made some kind of achievement, but as a gender, the female sex hasn't added anything to society. They've only leached off it.
I think that the left began to associate anything that elevates male sexuality or male sexual expression with the enemy.
Finally, he gets it. Finally, he's getting it. You see, they obscured it, and now he's getting to the actual reason. Women do see men as the enemy. It's totally unwarranted, but they do.
With something that's wrong. So coming out of the feminist movement, to an extent, almost, they began to.
Wow, he actually admitted it. He actually said the word feminist. There you go.
Say, okay, like you've got to keep in mind, you may have sophisticated ideas, but the dumbest trope.
No, there is no sophistication to feminist ideals anymore than there are sophistication to, ideas coming from the KKK. Hate movements are simple and lizard-brained. They lack sophistication completely.
end up trickling down and permeating the ideology. And male sexuality bad. Anything that arouses males bad. And this is
exactly. That's very simple, isn't it? Where's the sophistication to it?
we've seen online. We've done other videos about this. We were recently, today I had a call with a conservative follower. He said, why do you do so much like sexual stuff? These must be videos that are losing you followers and that get you like the least likes. And we're like, actually, they're our most watched videos often, right?
For him to say that shows you how stupid he is. Because sex always sells.
And the reason is because the left has completely ceded male sexuality as a ground, and starting with the manosphere, the right has been gobbling that up because it's very easy ground to take because it's just a natural part of it, and many men feel hated because of this. But anyway, so they say,
We don't feel hated, we are hated. You're talking about hatred.
anything that arouses males is bad. Female dimorphism arouses males. Let's take that away from them.
Finally, he just said it outright. So he could have started this video like that and just ended it. Dude, Malcolm, or whatever your name is, there's nothing else to say about this other than it's bad and something's going to be done about it. That's it. But they're going on for another 20 minutes. I don't know. I haven't watched it all yet, so I don't know if it's worth taking up your time with.
Right? Let's take away these big-breasted characters. Let's take away these voluptuous characters. And in doing that, they're like, oh, but we still want lots of strong female leads. So let's make these leads look. Now, what happens if you take those things away?
They don't want strong female leads, right? When they say strong female leads, what they really saying is we want a woman, we want a depiction of a woman that isn't a woman, right? That's what they're saying. We want the fantasy. It's no different than when I watch Superman. Kids watch Superman and say, yeah, I want to lift a building over my head but that can never happen. And that's what it is with these strong female leads. I want to be the Laura Croft type. That woman doesn't exist in reality. It's fantasy.
What do those leads look like? They look like one of two things. They either look like men or they look like underage women.
No. They look like ugly women. That's what they are. They're ugly women. Right.
Because those are the two groups in our society that have no breath.
No. That's not true. Ugly women have no breast as well. And like I said, I'm going to point this one out again. There's Amelia, right? Let's back this up. She's a small-breasted character. Guys find her sexy. They love her. So, I mean, he's just absolutely wrong about this.
Okay. Those are the two groups that have this overall masculine archetype. So in moving...
It's not a masculine archetype. Real life women have small breast or are flat-chested. It's not a sign of masculinity.
Away from this more gender dimorphic archetype, they, I think in a way are promoting underage.
You can have small breasts as a woman and still be very dimorphic in other ways. Okay? Like, take a look at this woman. She doesn't look like she has giant breasts, does she? But she doesn't look like a man.
They, I think in a way are promoting underage sexual attraction or the elevation of underage characters into sexual positions.
Okay.
Which, I read.
This guy is demonizing his own group. There's no way these two aren't feminist. He calls them progressive, but they're feminist. He admitted they're feminist. So he's pedo smearing. And this is what the right usually does. This is what the Nazis did to the Jews. The bad guys always pedo smear. Though I got to admit, there are feminists that have promoted pedophilia, such as Germaine Greer, right? But that is not the motivation of this.
Regularly see, especially in Western animated shows, and the removal and the erasure of women or at least women that most young girls can identify with, body type wise, from positions of power.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
That's nonsense. That's nonsense. I'm going to bring this up again. The Amelia character is in a position of power, but this one, I forget her name now. She's not. She's just Jane Doe. She has no superpowers. She's not heroic anyway. She's usually the damsel. People still love her, right? So position of power just means we want women taking away from men, because the male character has to be in a position of power to get anywhere.
Because when I'm thinking about this like shift in breast size and media, like it makes me think of a book actually that I read well before I met you called A History of the Breast by Marilyn Yalom and Alfred Knopf. And it's this really interesting discussion of how women's breasts were politicized and made into all
No, not politicized. Men ogling women's breast is not a political stance.
sorts of different like
So she's reading feminist tripe. So these two are feminist, they're anti-male, and then they go on and pretend that they like, beautiful women, right? And so they're saying, we want to see beautiful women, but we're going to deny that this is about denying men seeing beautiful women.
Types of objects. Like they argue that around the Renaissance, the breast went from, kind of being a fairly neutral thing or, kind of being seen as elevated, like there were paintings of the Madonna.
Men have always elevated women.
With a breast out to feed the baby Jesus, it was like kind of a sacred object to something that was specifically around to like excite and titillate men. And
really, so there was a time you thought that the breasts were just neutral and they never titillate, sorry, screwing up that word, turned on men? Come on.
That's when you start seeing more use of wet nurses, for example, because there's this big interest in preserving nice, bolted on tits that, don't get saggy after a lot of use or whatever. And it's
men like youth, duh, so do you.
It is interesting. So I'm thinking about it from that perspective. I'm like, okay, well, what does this mean about how the breast is being politicized now? And who's the last character I can remember who was like aspirational to both like men and women? I guess Laura Croft, who had actually a decent sized cup size.
But keep in mind, she was created a really long time ago and became feminist before she was put in. I want to see
before feminists got as far as they did. That's all that's going on here.
Recent Laura Croft.
Oh yeah, what does she look like?
No. Oh, by the way, this Laura Croft is gorgeous too. That's a perfect female body. Is what and she's got long hair, but what they've done is they've put her in clothes that aren't super appealing, right? And they've dirtied up her skin. Men love, pure skin, healthy skin. They've put her in the men's role because the men's role is gender neutral. Men cannot, they don't have the power to get what they want through showing off their bodies. Otherwise, we would. But we can't. So by putting her in the man's position, it's making her as gender neutral as they can, even though she's good looking. It's all about the denial.
What have you done? She's sweaty.
They remade her to look like a guy.
This doesn't look like a guy at all. What they've done is they've just dressed her in a way that is less appealing. That's it. You think this is a poor example because her face is still beautiful. She still has long hair. She still has a rocking body, right? This is the wrong example to use.
Yeah, she's a guy with a nice long ponytail. And the short shorts are gone. Yeah, is this...
Yeah, now you're getting it. The short shorts are gone. That's what it is.
And about less fan service, like less sex. Yeah, I guess it could be like, let's stop pandering to men that's a bad thing. Yeah, so it's misogyny that ends up being misandry, right? Because
No, it's just misandry, lady. It's just misandry. Misogyny doesn't even exist. You'd have to scour the world to find a man who actually hated women just for being women.
because now like
They
women
were,
sort
yeah,
of
they were trying to hurt men. It's like they took out their gun.
They did. They succeeded. We're the ones who want to see the sexy Laura Croft. See that these assholes are erasing men's issues as best they can.
In a metallic room, and they started shooting at men, and the bullets started ricocheting and hitting them.
well, yeah, because now all the busty teenage girls.
So attacking men hurts women. This is right up there with women are the biggest victims of war. Men get murdered and women lose their provider. Oh no, poor women.
Who are deeply uncomfortable in their bodies, who want to see someone who looks like them. They're not going to find anyone. They're not going to.
No one in a position. They have no one to turn to. They are told that they're.
This is disgusting. Making a men's issue to women. Like, these guys are part of the opposition, and they're pretending that they aren't.
This very change that they're going through, and one of the hardest parts of their life, is a sign of their inadequacy, unintelligence, and undesirability.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Can you imagine anything worse than that? Can you imagine what these young girls are going through? And
these young girls don't give a shit about Laura Croft. You know, these are video games. They're primarily played by men and boys. So you're full of shit. And frankly, you two are awful people doing what you're doing. Now, I'm not going to go through the rest of this because I think I've made my point clear. This is controlled opposition. These are people who hate men, who are pretending that they're on men's side. And you got to be ready to call these assholes out, these misogynists out. Sorry, misandrist out. They say that word so much, misogynist, that it's stuck in my head. You got to call these misandrists out. Okay?